You may already know my name's Clare Baker and I'm a former Clutterholic and Borderline Hoarder. I successfully cleared all my clutter over 20 years ago without the need for an expensive home visit. And I've been helping other people around the world do exactly the same by following the same 7-step journey that I discovered and completed ever since I cleared my own clutter, so that they too can know what it's like to live a completely clutter-free life forever. It's important to me that you know that you're not alone with your experiences and challenges with your clutter. Those of us who struggle with clutter rarely have supportive friends and family. We don't understand why we struggle. Our friends and family don't understand why we struggle. And the frustration that no one understands why we're struggling with our clutter can often lead to World War III. So I like to share my experiences to help fellow clutterholics and hoarders and their friends and family understand some of the thoughts, feelings, and experience that we have when we struggle with our clutter. So in this video, I'm going to share with you one of my experiences that I had before I successfully cleared all my clutter forever. Are you seriously going to get rid of those, Mum? I screamed at my mother from the bottom of the loft ladder. It was Christmas 1996 and my parents were moving out of their home after a flood while they'd been away over Christmas. Not a flood from water coming up from below, but from the water tank in the attic leaking. They turned all the heating off, which meant the water in the pipes had frozen and the inevitable had happened in the thaw. They were having to empty the house and move out for 6 months while it was all fixed. Now, this particular day, when I turned up for a visit, they were in the attic sorting through things into black bin bags. They were deciding based on keep, rubbish or trash, and charity. Sound familiar? They were taking the opportunity to get rid of things that they'd stored up in that attic for years. 90% of it was going in the rubbish, trash, black sacks. It felt as though they were erasing the family history without a second thought. I was told that there was a small pile of things that my brother and I could sort through that we might want. In particular, the 1970s cotton crib that my brother and I had been brought up in. My mother said to me, "You can use that when you have children of your own one day." Not likely. It had so many nuts and bolts on it that I was surprised that I still had 10 fingers and toes. Besides, I'd always imagined buying a cot or a crib, a pram and a stroller with the man of my dreams as we nested together before our first precious one arrived. Turns out my first precious one was actually a fur baby, a fur tabby rescue cat called Betty. She had half a tail. She was then followed so far by 7 other precious fur babies. Sorry, Mum, no human babies for me. And then I watched my mother as she picked up my first ever pair of shoes and without hesitation dropped them in the rubbish trash black sack. My gasp was audible. Are you seriously going to get rid of those, Mum? Do my first pair of shoes really mean that little to you that you can just throw them away? Just as if my childhood meant nothing to you? I should have known better than to ask. It felt as though my mother had no emotional attachment to anything, just as much as it felt like she had little emotional attachment to me or my brother. Those darling little red shoes were from a shop that just about everybody in the UK got their first pair of shoes from, called Clark's. And the memories of me wearing them seemed to mean nothing to her. But they didn't mean anything to me either. Somehow I managed to hold back my tears of feeling I was being rejected. Those little shoes meant something to me in terms of they were part of my childhood, even though I didn't actually have a single memory of wearing them because I was too young. As my sadness turned to anger, I decided that I'd take, love, and care for those shoes if my mother didn't want them. I christened them my Dorothy shoes because they remind me of the shoes that Dorothy wore in The Wizard of Oz. So here they are, proudly sitting on my shelf beside the photo of me as a 4-year-old, a 4.5-year-old to be precise, wearing my favourite dress that my mother made for me with a patchwork C for Claire on the front. The shoes weren't the only thing that I took that day. Anything and everything that related to me and my childhood, whether I remembered it or not, and which my mother didn't seem to want. I decided that I could and would love and cherish my childhood, even if they didn't. With hindsight, it was about me wanting to take care of my younger self and the painful feelings that these things triggered about my childhood. I could love that Claire more than she had ever felt loved and been loved. I could prove that she was loved by keeping all of the things that were hers. Ironically, what I interpreted as my mother's heartless getting rid of things that were connected to me, her own daughter, and which I interpreted as a sign that she didn't care and had no emotions, would later help me realize that neither of us was right or wrong. We just had different needs and different triggers for the memories and feelings about my childhood. At that time, I didn't know how else to trigger the feelings that my childhood things gave me other than to keep the things. So I kept everything. If we're not careful, we can easily get ourselves trapped in a cycle of keeping sentimental or inherited things because we need to somehow prove that we care about the past and won't forget. For a handful of things, that's fine. But the mistake I made that day when my parents were clearing out their attic was thinking that I had to fill my present with my past at the expense of having any room for the present and my best life to come in the future. When people are patient and trust the journey, they usually find fewer things are sentimental or emotional than they expected because they've done the groundwork and given their brain the time it needs to prepare to let go. Learning to capture the feelings and memories and let go of the things from our past is probably one of the hardest yet most important skills that we need to learn on our clutter clearing journey to a clutter-free life. It is possible. I did it. Hundreds of others have done it in the last 20 years that I've been sharing the journey. You can do it too. Ultimately, letting go of the past, holding on to the positives, and taking some into your clutter-free future is what will enable you to move on and start living your best life. You can clear your clutter fast, or you can clear your clutter forever, but you can't clear your clutter forever fast. It's time to accept that what you've been doing hasn't been working and get the help that you need to succeed. Click on the link with this video to find out how I can help you successfully clear your clutter forever without the need for an expensive home visit.